Thank you for having
Anton,
me.
yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being here. I'm
Yeah.
excited to delve into your journey. I've watched some of your videos, but maybe you could tell the people who might not be familiar with some of your content on, how have you come to where you are now? Welcome to the Revo Report. We're inspiring faith with reason and reason with faith.
Yeah, well, it's a long story. I'll try to make it short and sweet. I grew up, my parents are Catholic, but the religion was really never practiced growing up. I did go to catechism, I was baptized as a baby, but I think when you're a kid and you're just kind of forced something, you don't value it. And like I remember just like
Hmm.
memorizing like certain prayers and catechism and stuff. But long story short, I don't really have many memories of church because we didn't go much. I mean, maybe twice a year, maybe.
Christmas, Easter type
Christmas,
thing.
Easter, yeah, exactly. But what I do remember more so growing up was my father, who, I love him to death. I'd wake up for school and he would be meditating, listening to Wayne Dyer and doing like 2 hours of yoga. And for those of you who don't know who Wayne Dyer is, kind of like one of the earlier new age kind of pioneers. And I mean, my dad listened to this one cassette tape from him every single morning to the point where to this day, if it turns on, I can start verbatim saying it because it's just embedded in
Wow.
my memory, which is because he listened to this like every day. So my memories growing up was that was very normal, Then, when you're a kid, you don't realize there's different religions and stuff unless your parents bring that awareness to you. And my dad very much didn't like Christians. And he didn't like Christians because of my grandpa. And my grandpa was a strict Polish Christian. Every day went to church, didn't
Wow.
miss a
Every day.
beat every day. And
Wow.
he was a hypocrite, according to my dad. I hate to say it, but he beat his children. He was angry in a lot of ways. So although my dad grew up Christian, I think there was always this underlying hatred towards the religion, which absolutely projected onto me. 100%.
Wow.
Whether he did, I don't think he did it intentionally. My father's on his own journey. So I think spiritually, I was always curious about things. And then when I was 16 years old, I watched a movie called The Secret. It's all about the law of attraction, how your thoughts, create your world. And overnight, that was now my God. That was the missing piece to my life. Everything made sense. And that took me down an entire journey of pretty much using those techniques to create a beautiful life, quote unquote. And I was young and I started religiously every single day. I'm visualizing what it's going to be like to be rich and talk like it and feel like it. And I
Vision
did this
boards.
vision boards, everything in between. And that led me to essentially starting a business. I was selling these energy drinks in high school and I was making a bunch of money. And I equated
Wow.
the money I was making to the techniques from The Secret. So that reinstilled the belief that this works. So what did that make me do? What maybe want to practice it more? And I ended up by the time in my senior year of high school, I had a $50,000 Mercedes Benz.
Oh.
So I was like so sold on this. I was like preaching it to my friends. I was like, I'm telling you, it's the power of the mind. Like you got to use your mind to create your reality. So these things drove me in life, and it eventually led me to working with a company that promoted these ideas. And when I was, 20 years old, I was learning about social media, and I was taking I was learning the knowledge of the new age. And my goal was to pretty much bring it to Instagram and these other platforms. So that's what I
Wow.
started doing. So I worked with some of the most well-known Instagram pages that are still around till this day. I was kind of like a pioneer in that space
Wow.
along with a team of guys. So, I thought I was for sure doing the work of God. I thought this was positive because I saw what it did to my life. Like
Right.
it helped me with my mental health. It helped me make more money. It gave me a vision for my life. And it's funny.
Mm.
They'll even, sometimes quote the Bible. They'll isolate it, right? Without a
Yep.
vision,
Yep.
people perish.
Right. Right. Right.
Like, you'll see that a lot. So it wasn't that the Bible was completely out. It just, Jesus wasn't in the picture. There was no really emphasis on that, obviously.
Mm.
And if he was in the picture, he was just a guru. But
Teacher.
yeah, teacher. To make a long story short, I ended up realizing that although I was good friends with the guys I was working with to promote these ideas, I realized I could go way bigger and go on my own because I worked for them. I didn't have my own company yet. And when I was 21, I started my own company, and it was to take those concepts we were doing, but to really level them up. So I started working with actual new age teacher gurus. So like people who were behind the movie The Secret, people like Joe Dispenza and, everybody
Wow.
under the sun you can imagine.
Yeah.
And those guys had big money. So, I went from making $3,000 a month to virtually, 30 grand a month within a year. And so I was 22 years old and, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, thinking this is God supporting my journey. This God wants me to get this work out to the world. And that turned into running a new age social media agency for 9 years. Yeah, so that's kind of how it all started. And it just, to me, it seemed like, oh, this is obviously God. Like that's what it always seemed like. But it was not. It was the demonic. And I know that with every ounce of my soul and body. So it's kind of weird in a sense to be
Wow.
used by those forces my whole life, pretty much. They used me to further
Yeah.
a demonic agenda. And I was under the impression that it was good, and it was not. It was purely evil. So yeah, that's the story of how it all started. So how did I come to Christ? Oh man, it's a bit of an intense story.
Welcome to the Revo Report. We're inspiring faith with reason and reason with faith.